Welcome back to the channel, and on this episode we are going to say goodbye to Patches. Patches is the name that my wife gave this 1983 K20, and I think it's pretty obvious where she came up with the name. This truck is a patchwork of a lot of different trucks to produce what you're looking at sitting right here. So why are we getting rid of this? Well, kind of a long story. Let me try to make it as quick and to the point as possible. So back in April, while I was building parts and pieces for the Fall Guy truck, which I have a playlist for. You guys can go check it out. That is the 1984 K10 that I built to look like the 1981 GMC Sierra Grande 2500 driven by Colt Seavers in the television show The Fall Guy. We built that truck as a complete replica of the TV truck for the sole purpose of sending it over the Glacier View Cliff on July 4th. It went exactly as expected. It was spectacular, and well, that's in the history books now. So this particular truck ultimately gave up multiple parts that went on to Fall Guy. Primarily, it gave up its doors. Those doors were absolutely, completely just hosed. It was flat out a miracle that I was even able to make them straight enough to present on Fall Guy, but we did, and those doors were just standard crank and manual door locks that were fitting of this particular truck the way it was equipped from the factory. So I really ultimately wanted to do the right thing, A, because I'm completely addicted to working on and fixing old pieces of junk, and B, because I don't know, I just kind of felt a responsibility to at least save one out of the trucks that I was working with to build Fall Guy. And that happened to be this truck right here. While building Fall Guy and ultimately having removed these doors from a 1987 K10, that I would end up severely injuring my right shoulder. So back in April, I tore it up pretty badly, and I suffered with my shoulder in a tremendous amount of pain for months and months and months, having found out that I had torn tendons. I'd torn tendons on my shoulder, and that explained not only the pain, but the lack of use that I had with my arm. But I pushed on anyway, and we got Fall Guy completed. We went out this summer. We did as many things as I could possibly do with limited arm mobility, and we made our plans to go ahead and do the surgery back July 23rd. So we did that. Now, in the meantime, with Patches here, I had been busy behind the scenes doing a lot of work on this with an anticipation of sharing a lot of content about us saving this particular K20. So most of the work on this truck took place under the hood. We went in here and took this 350 Chevy 4-bolt main. When I got this, there was no intake manifold on it. Carburetor was off in the bed. Distributor was missing. Parts and pieces were laying around everywhere. I had no idea if it would even run or if it would even turn over what was in here. So I did start going through that, and after some basic checks and tests, I decided this was absolutely a good candidate for rebuilding. And we went through it. I made a phone call to Summit Racing. We went through and one by one, new cam bearings, crank, rings, camshaft, lifters, timing chain, oil pump, seals, etc., valve stem seals. The heads were in really good shape. The valves were really nice. So I just went in and lapped those in, cleaned them up, completely rebuilt this engine. Boom! Right? This particular truck also has a manual transmission. And that absolutely made this a very bad candidate for the cliff jump truck, because stick shifts are really hard to make them drive over a cliff without anybody behind the wheel. So this was not a candidate for the cliff jump, but definitely super cool to have a manual transmission pickup truck. So once I was able to get it running again, it didn't take long to figure out we had no brakes at all. So quick trip to the auto parts store, we ended up with new calipers, with new pads, with new hoses, and a new master cylinder. This particular model has what's called Hydro Boost in it for the power brakes. That works great. Was able to get all that put together, and now she has brakes. Well, in this whole process, we were trying to decide what we wanted to do with the truck. You know, did I want to make another fall guy, not to go off the cliff, to keep personally? Did I want to build another fall guy? Did I want to turn this into some sort of an off-road machine? Or did we want to make this into just, I don't know, you name it. Did I want to make a shop truck? We were really kind of struggling with some ideas. One thing I knew for sure is this would give me the potential to put my slide-in truck camper in this to store the truck camper and make it mobile during the winter while I'm using my GMC for other things. But we'd never really 100% decided what we wanted to do with it. The weekend before last pretty much sealed the deal. When we went hiking at the Golcana Glacier, unfortunately, I fell down and really screwed up my shoulder for a second time. I was able to call the orthopedics office from the glacier, which was insane. We found like a 3 foot by 3 foot spot that we could get in and get one bar. Wasn't a 911 emergency at that moment, but they did make an appointment with me and I went in. I've got an MRI of my shoulder, and I found out that the only tendon that was in good shape in my shoulder is now severed, cut off, broken, torn, ripped, what have you. And that is what is generating this brand new pain and my inability to move forward with the physical therapy and the progress on my shoulder. So yes, you can criticize me for having gone out. I mean, of course, if everything had gone well, it would have been a complete and total win. Everything, I believe, happens for a purpose. So I don't necessarily think it was a total failure yet. Only time will tell. But let me explain the complexity of what's happening at this moment. So the problem that I'm having now is that this other tendon is torn. And I've done my research. We've talked to the surgeon. We've tried to figure out what's going to make sense going forward. And I'm also going to just backpedal very quickly. When they did the surgery on July 23rd, we found out that things were in worse condition than we thought they were based on the MRI. And what I thought was going to be a couple of months of recovery and then get back to normal has turned out to be something much more complex, with, you know, a window of being my new self of being like 9 to 12 months. Whew. That's a long time. Fortunately, with this injury, we're looking at, you know, we're resetting the clock, and we're probably another 9 to 12 months before I'm really strong enough to do things. And anyone that does mechanical work or really just does anyone that exists that does things, you understand the need to be able to use both your arms if you still have both your arms. And that has become the real problem here, is that my right arm, while I can do things, I can do things like this, but I I was making really good progress, but I mean, that's as high as I can lift using my shoulder. And then, I mean, that's it. That's where I am right now. So there's some argument that possibly I could just do physical therapy and give it some time. I don't know what the right answer is at this point. I know I'm in a lot of pain. Since April, I've not been able to really sleep very well, and everything I've done has been limited, and it takes me twice as long to get it done. And as I look at old patches here, I recognize that if this thing has to sit for a year before I'm really ready to get back in it, that's just going to be a problem, because it's going to take up space, resources, it's going to be on my mind. And I would much rather somebody who has the capacity to finish it off, to get it running, have the truck, get it running, even if they just pull parts out of it to put on another truck. It will be theirs. It won't be my issue or my decision. So we are going to let patches go. Before we let this go away, that I would take a few moments and give you a tour of patches and maybe give you some idea of some of the craziness that I've been involved in behind the scenes on this, to try to get it up and running before we say goodbye to it for good. At least we can preserve it digitally, and I can come back here and visit patches and see how it was at this point in time. So let me just give you a quick tour of it. The place that I've really spent the most time and resources. Take a quick look under here. Here is our Chevy 350 4-bolt main. Has a Edelbrock intake manifold, HEI ignition system. This vehicle is very basic. This truck's very basic. I mean, it just has basically a heater and a charging system with power steering, power brakes on it. I went ahead and replaced fuel pump, water pump, oil pump, timing chain, rings, bearings, camshaft, you name it. We went through it and made it fresh. Interestingly, I've not been able to do the final tune on it because with my arm all screwed up, I can't really get in here and set the final timing, but it is running. It's got new hoses. She's all set under here. A 4-speed manual with the MP208 transfer case. I did some basic cleanup underneath, but we didn't really get into it because I didn't make it that far on it yet. It has the 14-bolt rear axle in it. It has what's called the 10-bolt corporate front axle, which I did recently put a new pinion seal, and I serviced that. That diff looked really, really nice, and I put a new U-joint in the front of it and cleaned up and painted what I was working on. It is currently rolling on a set of Michelin tires. These are off of a Dodge Ram, same bolt pattern. The center hole's a little bit larger on the Ram, which is good because it allows this to fit on this truck, and that works out really, really well. Inside here, it's pretty basic, although these doors are from the 87 K10, which was a really, really high optioned vehicle. I've bought new switches. We've rewired everything in here, so the power windows, power door locks, all of this is functioning. That particular door panel I didn't even pop off, just put the new switches in it. Cleaned it up inside pretty well. Got the old 4-speed, got the shift on the floor down here. The dashboard, really basic. I did end up adding these gauges to it. This truck was originally a diesel, and I have a feeling that this cluster was not the original cluster because it doesn't have like the water and fuel or whatever. There's just things here that I'm not seeing. So I think this cluster was out of another truck. In my travels, while we were working on things, I did take all the interior out of this K10 that was deluxe, including the headliner and all that can be put in here. Typical rot in the rockers, completely expected on these trucks. This bed has been beat up. It's got enough body filler in here to make it into a Corvette at this point. Typical rust in the rear. The tailgate's not bad, but I actually have 2 tailgates for this truck. That roll bar would have been the correct one, pretty much the correct one for the Fall Guy truck. And obviously I wasn't going to send Fall Guy over with that. This front crash bar, this thing is so unique and so rare, you don't even know. It's set up here for a winch plate, everything in it. Super, super rare. That goes back to the 1970s that those things were sold. And the fact that I was able to find one here in Alaska is insane. The front bumper is actually off of the prior square body, so it doesn't have the full bend in it, but it fits. It's on there. Same issues over here, back of the bed. And then, interestingly, this rocker is actually in better shape until you get back here where it got crushed in. The doors are not rusted through, they're just rusted. But the frame is super, super solid. And of course, it's got the typical rot here because this has been sitting under the battery where the battery leaks over time. We'll be getting a truckload of parts, including another front bumper and totes full of the interior from the deluxe model. I've got I was going to put those on Fall Guy, decided not to. We've got different cowl panel, and then tucked away in here, the tailgate, that is just surface rust on this thing. And then I've got another set of those light bars, roll bars, whatever. These kind are painted, and I was actually thinking these would be the ones I would use. So I think the truck would look better with a bit of a blackout look on it than the chrome look, but I hadn't decided. I've got the headliner, manual window cranks, weather stripping. Here's a passenger side fuel tank. We have parts everywhere for patches to finish this off and make it into an absolutely phenomenal machine. So I just want to say thank you to all of the subscribers. Thank you to all of you that take the time to comment and reach out to me. I really appreciate your community and the time that we spent together. I am heartbroken about this, and I would be lying if I told you that I wasn't a bit depressed about it and just overall frustrated and sad. But it is what it is, and it's just something that it's not going to benefit me to stay here, and I know me, and I know that probably at the least right time for me to be healing and trying to get this back in place, I'm going to find myself trying to do something on this that I shouldn't do. And I am sick and tired of being so incredibly restricted to do things. I need to heal. I need to get this shoulder back in business sooner than later. And I do apologize because it certainly impacts the content that I have available for you. But if you will, just with me, let's just say goodbye to patches, as somebody else out there who doesn't even know it yet is getting ready to say hello to patches to make it part of their family. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I appreciate your support. You guys are absolutely awesome. I will catch you on the next one. But between now and then, I am working on trying to heal and make myself strong again. Thanks for watching.